Welcome to The Pestle, reviewing and breaking down movies to look for insights into the movie-making process. Hosted by Existential Dread and Rainbows. Rainbows that get sucked into the black hole of oblivion, where even light cannot escape. Now, let's start the show.
Welcome everybody to The Pestle. Today's show is brought to you by Paranormal Paranoids, investigating the worst ghost stories so that you don't have to on Paranormal Paranoids. Welcome everyone to The Pestle. I am Wes.
And I am Todd.
And we're filmmakers. We make things, and then we also watch things and break it down to see what we can learn about the movie making process. And so I'm excited,
in case
man.
You missed the intro.
Yeah, just in case you blacked out for 20 seconds. Yeah, I'm excited, man. Let's hit record on today's movie. What are we covering?
Yeah, today we are covering Rec. So if you haven't seen this film, please pause this episode and go watch it. It is streaming. Some places you might have to pay for it, but it's like $4 or something, because we don't want to spoil anything for this film. So make sure you watch that before you listen to the rest of this.
For sure, especially if you can find it subtitled and not dubbed. I had to scrub for the proper viewing experience on that one too, and it's like, who are these people? Look, if this is you, I am judging you. Don't.
Yes.
Unless it's a cartoon where you can't really tell, like, watch stuff in the original language, right?
Yes. I mean, even in some like manga stuff, like just watch it with subtitles, please. It's just so painful.
It's a completely different experience to have the original actors. And the dubbing on this one seemed particularly awful.
Ooh, nice. I didn't watch the dubbing at all.
I watched
so
like the
it's
first
good to know.
20 seconds and I was like, wait, is this? Oh God, no. And I ran like a horror film. But yeah,
it reminds me like the first like 4 episodes of Squid Game.
Yeah.
When it came out, the original, like the first season 1, I watched with dubbing on because I didn't know that you could turn dubbing off. Or like watch it in the original
because
Korean,
they defaulted it right to English,
right?
Yeah,
exactly. And the whole time I was like, God, I hate this. This is so bad. This is so bad. Why does everybody like this? This is terrible. And then Scott told me about that or something, and I thought, and I went and changed it, and it changed everything. It's just, it is night and day.
Suddenly a bad show is a good show.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah.
But we'll cover a handful of things. We'll definitely touch on some of the cinematography, talk about the lighting, as well as story and writing, talk about the runtime, sense of immersion, some of the themes, and other such stuff and things and stuff.
And a quick synopsis of the film. A television reporter and cameraman follow emergency workers into a dark apartment building and are quickly locked inside with something terrifying. It's directed by Jaume Balagueró and Paco Plaza, screenplay by Jaume Balagueró and Luiso Berdejo and Paco Plaza, and cinematography by Pablo Rosso. It's featuring Manuela Velasco as Angela, Ferran Terraza as Manu, and Pablo Rosso as Pablo.
And no clip. Speaking of doing it properly, like I'm not playing English overdubbed audio.
Right. You could just have like a bunch of people screaming.
Right, that's true. Dude, so I'm curious. This came out in 2009. I'm pretty sure we both watched it around that time, and then eventually quarantine. And I'm curious, one, if this holds up for you, and if it does, are we just zombie hoes? is that our deal?
No. So yes, it does hold up for me big time. I absolutely adore it, and I liked Quarantine as well, which is the American version of this. I think we saw it in theaters. I don't know if about together, but I know that I saw it in theaters, and I was like, "Well, oh my God, that's great." And I don't think that we're zombie hoes. I think honestly, we get tired of zombies as much as anybody else. It's not about zombies; it's about the story around the zombies. It's just zombies are a byproduct of the story. Like there's several other zombie movies I can mention, and the thing that's best about them is not the zombies. The thing is, the main character and what he or she does and the things that happen to them and how they navigate their situation and the decisions they make to save other people or to not. And it's just like anything else. It's just any other like dramatic movie where you have a serious antagonist that keeps getting in the way. It's how you get around that. And I think that this is another great example of a great way to do a zombie movie, that you don't know what you're going into. So this is interesting because usually a zombie movie is the entire world is affected. But in this movie, the entire world is just an apartment building that's the whole world. It's nowhere outside of that. And we can't escape either. We are part of this group inside the building that can't escape because it's been locked off. And it's really, really smart because we're not, one, it's a low budget film, right? So we don't have the budget to have the entire world turn to zombies, right? We only have the budget for 12 people to turn to zombies. That's it. Okay, so let's lock them in a building and we only have this many people and this is what we do. And we'll make it really dark. So if the makeup is not super good, we can get around that because one, it's dark, and two, the camera's moving really fast and you don't really like lock onto anything for a given amount of time, until the very end. And that's a whole nother conversation. That's awesome. But, and then the other thing I love about it is that the timing and the ramping of this film are just, they're textbook. They're like it's really good. It's really short. I think it's like an hour and 12 minutes or something.
Yeah, hour 18.
I don't know. Yeah, something like that. It's really short, which I love because it's not a world. We're not part of the entire globe. We are part of this, this apartment building. There's no reason why it needs to be 2 hours long. There's barely a reason why it should be 90 minutes long, although I could have seen it being 90 minutes. But they're not in here making this film trying to make, anything more than what it is. And I love that. They're being honest with themselves and they're not trying to make it anything else. And there's no fluff anywhere. I mean, even the conversations that are had, they're not like exposition based, right? They're them figuring stuff out. Yeah. And like a perfect example is when the one guy locks himself and they're in that room, they're in like a kitchen or something, and this one guy locks himself in this room because he knows he's going to change. And then you have the older guy saying, I remember there's a way out, He's talking and then he dies, right? So now they know they need to get the keys from this guy on the third floor or something. But that guy's dead, so he can't guide them. And it's them realizing and figuring stuff out themselves. And by that, we're figuring it out. It's perfect because they don't know what's going on. Like, Angela and Pablo, they got no freaking idea. They have less idea even than the firemen who normally go into crazy, chaotic situations. I mean, they don't have any idea either, but they're more used to this than them. And I also like that kind of their ignorance means they survive a little bit longer, because they're not putting themselves in the front, they're kind of following around, so it makes sense that everybody else, or like the firemen, would die before they would. And then the ending is, I can never forget it. I remember watching this in 2009 or 2010. I guess it was 2009 because then I watched Quarantine and right after when it came out. What did that come out? 2011, 2010, something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. Anyway, I'll never forget it. It is such a strong, great ending. I mean, you're freaked the F out in the dark. And anytime you're in the dark and it's a zombie movie and you're looking through night vision, you're going to win. It's so good. It's so good. And we spend time there. It's not like just a little bit, like a moment here, a moment there. And then we're attacked and we're out of it. No, we spend time there. And then the very last shot with the camera where she's crawling to the camera and then she gets pulled away. I mean, really, you need minimal, even less makeup and set not set dressing, but makeup and lighting in a scene like that than you do in any of the other scenes. And how, what a great way to, if you have little budget, to end with just somebody dragging her out of frame. That's it. Cut to black and you're done. It's just so good. And there's also no like, this is a found footage thing and this is a true story. Like they just start.
Yeah.
Here it is. And she's talking to the camera and she's in the firehouse, and then it just ends, and that's it. It's so great. There's no fluff or anywhere. And it feels real. It feels like the way that Manuela Velasco is playing it is this, ignorant, and yet like looking for the story, because she's telling these little stories in the middle of the night, to people that are not really awake, they even call it out, like, oh, this gets what happens after you're asleep or something is what it's called. And there was like, well, who's going to watch it if they're asleep? So there, she gets called out or whatever. So she's like excited. It's a story. But then obviously it turns bad. So yeah, fantastic, writing and use of, budget and, use of a single location, or, pretty much a single location. So yeah.
Dude, yeah, agreed on all fronts. This absolutely still works for me. And that shot you're talking about at the end is such an amazing shot, because it's a really well-known famous shot. Like, I was showing it to my buddy and he's never seen this movie, and he was like, oh yeah, I know that shot. And it's just like, he doesn't even watch horror films. And it's a really amazing, like, use of all the things you're talking about, like night vision, stripped down, and to have that as your final shot is kind of wild, because they use it in all their marketing, and yet it doesn't ruin the movie experience. Like, where this is going, and yet you get to that moment and there's still so much tension. And a lot of that has to do with where they are versus where they need to be, right? They need to be at the basement. That's where the exit is. And yet they find themselves in the penthouse, and which happens to be, ground zero of where all this started. And so it all makes sense of why all roads lead to Rome, right? Like, they get chased up. It all just works, to your point. Like, the writing is so strong, and still, like, it's not forcing anything. I love this runtime. I love a 78-minute film that doesn't feel like they need to stretch it to 90. Like, that takes a lot of courage and faith in what you're creating, because the temptation is to be like, well, to hit a proper runtime, you really need to get to at least 90, or else people are going to feel like it's not worth their time of watching. And to be like, nah, we're gonna do our own thing, and still have just a crazy amount of success. This had a $2 million budget, which isn't like a lot, but it's probably more than what we would assume just from watching the movie. And that, I think all that plays into, or comes from, like, the lighting. It's a lot of practical lighting. The camera itself isn't a very fancy looking camera. Like, I don't know what they actually shot on. I bet I can pull that up in the next 10 seconds though. And the impression you get is that this is an actual, like, no budget film where we're just, getting our friends together and borrowing someone's space. A Panasonic, like, AGHVX 200, HVX 200. So, like, it's not much. It's just a DV tape kind of thing, right? And that's amazing. And it creates this feeling of, this is super low budget. But whenever you're making a movie, properly, the camera doesn't really matter that much. Like, just, this could have been whatever, an Alexa. Not that, I don't know if they were using Alexas in 2007, sorry, not 2009, is when this came out. And it's so, like, DVX versus if they had an Alexa in the first place, that you still need pretty much almost the exact same team. Like, maybe not the same camera team, but you still have the crew pretty much the same. You're still going to need a bunch of gaffers. You're going to need, a bunch of stunt choreographers. You're going to need a, UPM out there coordinating everyone. You're going to need producers running around coordinating everyone. And this building, you're still going to need a whole production designer to run through and set decorators and props, and then you're going to need this whole space for probably several weeks, if not, a full month. And that's going to cost you a lot of money. Who knows? I have no idea how they shot that final shot with that woman. I don't know if that's like a very tall man in makeup or a tall woman in makeup, or if it's all CG. I have no idea. And it looks amazing. Like, it looks
incredible,
freaking amazing. And so, like, it all adds up at the end of the day. Like, you might think like, oh yeah, you can make this for 50 grand. You probably could. It's still going to be a fraction of what this movie ends up being. And so, like, I love that combination of we're committing to the runtime that we have. And I'm sure they got in post and they had that extra 15 minutes and they said, let's tighten it up. This is feathering. We don't need to feather at all. Let's just cut to, in those moments that you might look at as feathering, they're like these little cutaway interviews that you do with some of the residents. It's just, you need it. You need to understand who these people are, some of their personalities, and you need a little bit of that emotional investment so that whenever you see them later and they get killed, it just stings a little bit more. Whereas if you didn't know who they were, you didn't have any sense of their character, like that suddenly just eats away at the impact of seeing them die. Like you need those little moments. You need to see Angela running around, gathering data, fighting. And I love her casting. Like, you could have cast a lot of different actors for that, but Manuela Velasco, I think, brings such a pure kind of innocent vibe that contrasts all the horror, the tone of violence that you have throughout the film, that it really stings watching her go through this. And it's nice watching that transition of her as this very innocent, happy-go-lucky character at the beginning. And then she undergoes that transformation that you were talking about. Like, she is, at the end of the day, a reporter. And when she smells a story, suddenly you see that switch go off in her. Like, no, record everything. You're not going to tell us what's going on. We want answers. Like, I love that switch that we see in her. And it's just really beautifully portrayed by Manuela. Like, and I think she goes on to, star in other films. And there's so much to love about this. I love the lighting. Like, they really play into the realism more than the cinema, because they want you to be emotionally invested in, like, oh, this is just people running around with the camera. And so it's like this 28 Days Later meets Blair Witch Project kind of blend.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Right. And it just nails it, because they still find ways to like backlight and create these silhouettes and create some contrast without overcommitting to the cinematic, look and style. Whereas they also do a nice mix of like cutting to black and not overusing the spotlight. That is where you can start to really overplay, like, okay, we're trying to create cinema here. And they said, nah, you know what? We're going to use fluoros and we're going to wash it in this section, and then we're going to create some hard light in this section. And so they really staged out, like, how can we play into this location in a way that feels inherent to where we're at, while also creating style choices for each space. And then we'll save the spotlight for the end. Like, we'll show that we can spotlight, and then it's like becomes this moment of, what are you doing? And that creates tension whenever he spotlights the woman who's trapped in her apartment, right? And he turns it on and everyone freaks out on him, like, and he's like, oh, sorry. Well, you've signaled that we can do this thing, but we're not going to do it again until we get to the very end of the film. And now you've created this very punchy look that has suddenly restricted all the visual information.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It's genius. And to wait until you're in the worst space before you trigger that, brilliant. Just freaking brilliant. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, dialing it up one step, higher with breaking that light at the worst possible moment, and then switching to night vision. Like, mm-hmm. My God, like, that takes so much restraint as a filmmaker to be like, no. Save it. Save that for the end. Just save it for the end. Like, well, we need something to punch it up. Well, let's do that with the blocking. We can still zoom. If you want to restrict mm-hmm. visual data, use the zoom. Like,
dude, great call on the zooming. They picked that so perfectly when they, like, when you see the woman down the hall, you just zoom to her, and you're right. The entirety of, you feel like you're way too close to her now. Like I need to back up. And then they do an excellent, you also called out blocking. They do an excellent job of that. Like when the old lady is shot in the hallway and she comes back to Pablo and talks to Pablo and she's blocking her. Yeah. She blocks the old lady and then she like leans over and reveals the old lady and then she blocks her again. The whole time I was thinking, I need to see this old lady. Get out of the way so I can watch the old lady. I know she's going to get up. And she never gets up, but I'm thinking that because that's how I'm trained with zombies, that they don't go down easy, right? And it happens, but it doesn't happen when we see it. It happens later when we've left and we come back and she's gone. And so now we have even less of an idea of what's going on. It's just so well done blocking wise. And they use that zoom as like another tool in the chest. Yeah, it's perfect.
And I think you pointed at it so well, is that the filmmakers know what we're expecting, what we're wanting, and what's going to like tease us. Like we want, like we need, is she going to get up? Is she going to get up? No. And they're using that against us so that when we finally do go back up there and she's not there, we know what's going on as we're waiting for them to like catch up of the danger. And that's always the fun. You're always having to choose, does our characters know about zombies or do they not? And either one of those can be really, really fun, whether it's Shaun of the Dead or 28 years later. Like you can play with their knowledge of it in a very fun way, but it's also really fun for the characters to not know and to see them catch up to speed and be smart because we know we want to see them catch up faster. And they layer this very, very quickly, especially watching how frustrated they get, because that's our frustration. They're venting at the what is that guy, the health inspector? Like they're venting at him for answers, and that's what we want, is for them to get those answers. And that's the filmmakers just understanding the audience's understanding of this world, that
and honoring it.
Yeah.
Like, because we know zombies, we're not stupid.
No.
The characters can't be stupid either, or we freaking hate it. That's one of the reasons why we love certain zombie movies that we love, is when the protagonist like understands what's happening and responds to it immediately. Yeah. Right. They because we understand immediately. We're like, I know what I'm going into. I know what, and in this case, the first time I saw this, I didn't expect zombies. I just, I expected like anarchy and craziness and like some kind of like monster maybe, but I didn't expect zombies. And so I didn't know what was happening either. Even after the first woman, like attacks, I'm like, is she possessed? Is this a possession movie? Like I didn't know. And so when I find out, they kind of find out. Right. And they never say zombie, I don't think. It's never like mentioned, but it's just they are dealing with this thing and they make decisions that I would hope that I would make if I was in a situation like that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that aligns me with the characters really well. So
100%. Well said. And they do a great job from the beginning of like settling in. I love because when you hit play on a horror film, you're kind of like, when do we get to it? And to have the opening of Angela kind of experiencing boredom in a fire station, you eventually start to be like, okay, we're just going to hang out here for a while. And the moment that you kind of get comfortable of running around being silly in a fire station is exactly when the alarm goes off. And it's like, okay. And in that meantime, they've done a number of things to kind of like set us in this world in a very nice way. Like I love getting to know Angela and watching her style, and also how like honest she is. I love that little moment she whispers to Pablo, like, hey, if this sucks, like just cut. I don't want to waste tape on this. And then she goes and does the interview and he cuts. Like we don't actually hang out there very long. And I love the quick shot of her going into the dinner scene with all the firemen sitting around. Like, I think that's such a good shot because there's a really strong sense of immersion that you get in this world and a sense of scale. Because on the one hand, you might just start to feel like, oh, they're doing things to not spend money. But whenever you suddenly walk in, you see like 40 guys at a table dressed in, their firefighter outfits, and you're in a firefighter station. Suddenly it's like, oh, this isn't about that at all. It starts to erase the boundaries of reality in a way that you start to really get immersed in this universe. You're like, oh, we really are in a fire station. Okay, got it. And then you have my final little moment that I loved was when she's doing an interview with one of the firefighters, and he's telling us how 70% of their calls aren't for fires at all. Which, the older you get, the more you understand firefighters do a lot of stuff, and not all of it has anything to do with fires. And so it primes us for a night without a fire, but also grounds us by giving us a real fact about firefighters, and that, a lot of their calls are just helping people and being a service to the community in a number of ways. And so that's a really smart way to prime us like, oh, we're with firefighters, but we're probably going to be doing something other than fighting fires. And then when we get the call, like there's a woman trapped in her apartment, it's like, what does that even mean? Okay. And it just allows us to slowly build out the drama. Genius. And that last little element is what I really love, which is there's a philosophical element that I think is at play here, which is the media is being kept in the dark by the police and the government. They're being held against their will without any information about why or what to expect. And so I love this idea of there's a news reporter who's out for the hunt for information, and she's being detained, and things are happening that don't seem right. They don't seem in the spirit of good governance. So like the mom getting cuffed in the stairwell is kind of jacked up because she ends up getting killed, right? Because she's being restrained against her will. And everyone in this building ultimately is killed in the name of, quarantining people from some kind of virus. And I just love this kind of push and pull of we're out for information, we're out for the story, and more the government is preventing us from having access to everything that we think is in our rights. And I don't think they're really like pushing hard to point the finger at any one thing in particular. I think it's really more of a philosophical idea, more than anything specific that they're after. Now, I don't know, maybe they wrote this with something specific in mind, but I wouldn't know what that is. Because when they get to the final spot, it's this really like interesting dive into some kind of covert medical community thing of someone who's squirreled away information and was doing their own secret research. And I don't know that they really point out exactly what's going on there. I just like the idea that there was a reporter who basically dies for learning too much at the end of the story, right? And therefore she recorded everything, but does it ever really come to light? I don't know. Like, is that us? Yeah. Are we the viewer who now is armed with this information and that we need to go forward with it, with what we know? I don't know. That's part of the fun of, analyzing it, but I don't know. Yeah, I think the last little thing that I thought was interesting or fun from a writing standpoint was the little girl, is sick, right? She just has tonsillitis. And then, of course, they eventually find out that the dog that triggered all this in the first place, right? Her dog went to the vet. The vet turned into a big infectious nightmare. And that's when they discovered who the owner of the dog was, which is why the police all show up when they do, and send in the health inspector. And that's when Angela is putting all the pieces together. She said, was that dog's name Max? And the health inspector's like, yeah. She looks at the little girl, and the mom is like, no, this is tonsillitis. And it's at that moment when the little girl turns, right, is when they uncover her true illness. Now, on the one hand, that's a little convenient narratively. She's been sick this whole time, and the moment she turns is the moment they discover it. But writing-wise, there's also no reason to keep the ruse up after getting the reveal. We now know she doesn't have tonsillitis. You know what? Trigger. Let's see her attack her mom and all hell break loose, because it just doesn't make sense to keep feathering it out any further. Let's just let the dogs loose, so to speak. And so that was both like, it makes sense, especially on first viewing, to let that just break out there. Now on repeat viewings, you might start to say, you know what? And you start to, push your glasses up on your face or whatever. But no, that is absolutely the right time to let the little girl loose. Don't hold back just because it feels a little convenient. It is convenient. It's super convenient. Let's go with it.
It's perfect.
Yeah. I don't know, reaction or response to any of that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, maybe I was trying to think like, is there any way kind of that could have been better? Maybe if it would have been something like she turns and then they realize that the dog was her dog or something,
Yeah.
But I honestly didn't bother me at all. You're right. Like it's one of those things. The reason why we talk about movies like this, or why we talk about anything like this, is because there are no rules. We sit here and we say, and we think, oh, like this would be better, or that would be better. But really, we also know at the same time, it depends. Everything depends. It depends on what came before it. It depends on what comes after it. So, in any other movie, we might say, God, that just didn't feel right. Because what the timing of it was too perfect. But we probably would have felt that because other things were wrong in the movie. And if other things are wrong, then this feels wrong too.
Right.
But nothing else is wrong in this movie. Like everything is right. So you know what? That's right too. And I think that, there is an element of I'm not going to say suspension of disbelief, but just like forgiveness that we tend to want to give to stories and to movies. And that amount of forgiveness is equitable to the quality that we've gotten before and the quality we get after the incident that we're talking about. And I think in this movie, because we're so engulfed in it and the writing is so strong and all the pieces kind of come together and the way everybody's acting is right, it feels right, and the scenario feels out of this world, but at the same time grounded. That is an easy thing to forgive, or to just look over, as in like that doesn't bother me at all, kind of thing. So yeah, there are no rules, but at the same time there are, and I think the more you get right, the more the audience can give to you in terms of leeway, for situations like that.
Agreed. Dude, that's such a great point. Like, at the end of the day, if you're doing all the other things right, you can get away with some convenience or a plot point that's a little sticky, like, because the flow is so good. And I was listening to an old interview with Guillermo del Toro, and he talks about how he's really mostly concerned with flow. He doesn't, I don't know if he thinks about structure all that much, but he does think about flow and how the movie, transitions. And if you're maintaining a good flow, people will forgive a lot. And this movie has a great flow. You're just always in it. It feels very like one moment connecting to the next and keeping your attention. And so once you kind of have us, you know what? Do the fun stuff and we'll thank you for it. We won't hold it against you because they set up everything so well. Yeah. Nice. Well, that's all I got, man. Final thoughts?
Nope. I think I just gave them. I think it's great film. It's really fun, and not fun at the same time, which makes it great. And definitely worth the hour and 18 minutes, it takes to watch it for sure. So
I could use more 1 hour, 18-minute films that really respect their goals, their aims, and the execution of it. No question.
Yeah. You know what I could do less of is hour-long episodes of things. I could deal with less of that. and more of like hour and 20-minute movies,
Yeah,
So.
dude. Amen.
There you go.
Nice.
Unless you're Stranger Things, I'm kind of looking forward to
That's
that.
true. Just a few more weeks, and we're it wraps. It ends tonight. I don't know if anyone's going to say that, but I feel like someone's going to say it ends tonight.
It has to, right? This ends now.
Yeah.
Okay.
What are you going to recommend this week?
I'm going to go in the other direction. Oh my God. Pretty much completely. I'm going to recommend a new show on Netflix called Boots. If you haven't watched it, If you haven't watched it, go watch it. It's interesting. It's weird. It's like a drama comedy kind of thing. It's set in like, I don't know, I guess the 70s. It's about homosexuals in the military, in the Marines, and it's, to me, is really well done and entertaining, and made me want to watch the entire season. I think the acting is strong and the writing is beautiful, and there are some really, really powerful moments. So, and it has a really, it has a really interesting message, like good message, I think. So, yeah.
Ooh,
Boots.
Okay. Nice. I am going to recommend, as I scrub through, I forgot. I knew I was forgetting something. I'm going to recommend Rec 2. No, that seems a little convenient. Oh, have I recommended this? I bet I have.
Just say Quarantine if you want to be lazy.
I know, right? Oh, I bet.
For those of you who don't know, Quarantine is I think we talked about it, is the American version, or the US, like the English version, remake of Rec. So.
God dang, I have recommended everything under the sun. Okay.
Yeah, there are no other movies to recommend.
I've covered them all.
Nothing. We've covered them all.
What about
345 episodes? I mean, that's, getting up there.
That is up there. Okay.
We're getting close to the end.
I'm going to recommend the film that I just really enjoyed. I don't know that I'll watch it again, so it's that kind of movie, but it's intense. It's interesting. It's called Bones and All. It's Luca Guadagnino. And I don't know. This may not be everyone's cup of tea. In fact, I'm sure of it. I'm sure it's not everyone's cup of tea. But it's Timothy Chalamet and Taylor Russell, and I think they're just dynamite. I love Taylor Russell, and I keep waiting for her to have, a bigger film to go after. And I think Mark Rylance as well. Like, it's got a fantastic cast.
How have I not heard of this?
I know.
What the hell?
And it's a very intense, queasy kind of movie. And I adored it. And again, I'm never watching it again. But for a single time viewing, I think it's fascinating and very interesting and compelling. And Luca just picks very strange projects. And so I love seeing what he's going to do next. And so, yeah, Bones and All is the name of that one. And so stay tuned for next week, where I was thinking Frankenstein, but I think instead we decided on going to a whole other world, maybe. I don't know what to expect. It's Predator Badlands. And hopefully this will be the Predator to rule them all. That's my hope. I guess that's my hope. Anytime I watch a movie, it's the one to rule them all. But yeah, I don't. All I know is we get Elle Fanning. I know nothing else about what to expect. But I love that. Usually, what she picks, I enjoy, and so hopefully that holds up. On this one. So Predator Badlands, stay tuned for that. And if you're enjoying the show, don't forget, subscribe, drop us a review, leave us a note. It's something you want us to cover. And if you're enjoying this episode and you want to leave a comment, you can leave one at thepestlepodcast.com/rec.
And our quote of the day is from the great Danny Boyle. People say you never remember anybody who dies in movies. And it's true, you don't. You don't even remember people who disappear. Yeah.
That's really fascinating. That I was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
I think he's right. I think that's why we allow characters to move on so fast, emotionally, right? Someone, their best friend, my maid of honor just got killed, what's for lunch? And it's just because like we as an audience move on so quickly. So there's some emotional allowance for characters to move on more quickly. Yeah, I don't know what strikes you about that. That's a really interesting observation.
It really is. And I've talked about this on this podcast before of like, sometimes I think about it whenever somebody dies, you know, a nobody,
yeah.
you know, yeah. And you're just, you know, we just move on. But that person, yeah, at least in the story, had like a family and grew up and had loves and, you know, you know, drove a car for the first time. I don't know, like, you know, had an entire life and now it's gone. And sometimes I think about that and it kind of like feels cheap. It makes the movie sometimes, when I feel that, I feel like the movie has kind of done something wrong, because then it makes me feel like this is like a cheap thing that I should be latched onto, that should be part of the story. That's not. So that when I do feel something, when a character dies and I miss them and it hurts me, and I feel like something was done right, you know, like My Girl, you know, or something like that. I'll never forget stuff like that. So like there are, and I'm not saying that it is wrong to feel that way. Like I think there's so many great movies where a character dies and you forget them, but that's okay because you're following some other character. But it's so well put because it's so true. and yeah, people who disappear, it's like we live in this rectangular box as an audience, right? Like outside of this box, and we are voyeuristic. Yeah. And if it is not in this box or referenced, you know, in this box, then it is not in our minds. We are moment to moment beings as we watch a film. And if I am not talking about the person who just disappeared or just died, I am not thinking about that person. But in real life, all I'm thinking about is that person, even though everything is happening around me. It's like the opposite. It's so weird and crazy, but yeah, totally right. I agree.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, what do you think about it? I'm curious what you think about it, because as a filmmaker yourself.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. Like there is this strange element of us being able to just sit and watch a movie and really feel like we're a part of this world. Like it's this, you know, transportive technology and immersion that we don't really get too much throughout the rest of our life. It's not like, you know, we watch someone making our coffee and we feel like we're a part of their work. We really don't. We're like, we're going to grab our coffee and go. And yet we sit and watch a story through a box, and we imagine what we would do, how we would react. And there's all these questions of, you know, what makes sense to us and what doesn't make sense. And I think I don't know. Maybe that's why I love it so much. You know, growing up, watching movies allowed me to experience so much of the world that I didn't get to otherwise experience. I got to see, you know, what it's like growing up in the 50s. Like La Bamba was one of my favorite movies as a kid, and experiencing that era and experiencing the heartbreak of losing someone was like transformative for me as a kid, you know? And I'll certainly never forget what it felt like to watch him die, you know, because that's the whole point of the movie. But I'm sure if someone else died in the film, I wouldn't know, like, because that's not really the point of the film. And watching people pass left and right in this movie, like, yeah, within seconds, I'm like, oh, wait, who was that guy? Okay. You know, you're on to the next. It's a wild experience to have that simultaneous detachment and investment. Like that is the duality of mankind, the ability to move on from grief at all. You know, it's a pretty amazing ability when we're so in tune and aware of our own mortality. The fact that we lose people in life and still pick ourselves up and move on. Maybe there's a reflection of that in our ability to watch movies and experience the same thing.
Have you watched Dying for Sex on Disney?
Yes, I'm almost through it. I'm like, I think I have 1 or 2 episodes left. Yeah. And
okay.
Same.
Okay. I won't talk about it, but that's a good example of like, you know, you're latched onto a character. And when you're latched onto a character, then you can feel an effect instead of watching a character have an emotion, right? Like I'm watching you have an emotion of losing somebody. that is totally different from being connected to somebody that either dies or disappears, right?
Yeah.
And then you get to have that feeling with the character or by yourself, which is almost more effective in some ways, of like, you're the only one that knows this as the viewer, that this person has died or this person has disappeared or whatever, and you're sitting in it by yourself instead of like watching someone else react.
Yeah.
Like, imagine that. Like, that's actually pretty cool. Anyway, I was just curious because that's like an example of like being ingrained in a character, you know, like, you know, and yeah. So anyway,
Dude,
great quote, man.
Nice. Well done.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining. I had a great time talking
Same.
about this.
Same.
Really did. Good recommendation. Please subscribe, review us wherever you get your podcasts. It all helps a lot. And if there's a film that you'd like to see us talk about or pick apart, let us know. Maybe one day we will cover it. Until next time, I'm Todd.
I'm Wes.
Go watch some movies.